The Elysium was the kind of restaurant where a glass of water cost more than Lila Rowan earned in an hour. Crystal chandeliers shimmered like frozen stars above white-gloved servers. Money spoke softly here, but its echo was everywhere, in the laughter of the elite, in the hush of fear that followed their whims. Lila moved through the dining room with quiet grace, balancing a silver tray. To the guests, she was invisible, another shadow in black and white. But tonight, her hands trembled. Rent was overdue, her mother's medication running out, and yet she forced a polite smile because that's what you did when the powerful watched. At table 16 sat Alexander Ward, the billionaire everyone in the city whispered about, Ward Tech's prodigy, the man who'd built satellites, sold dreams and crushed competitors before turning 35. His name alone could open doors or close them forever. He didn't belong in the mortal world. He was power-wrapped in an Armani suit. When Lila approached, she noticed the watch first. Sleek, vintage, with a faint crack across the sapphire glass. Her breath caught. Her eyes widened. It couldn't be. That exact watch had been buried with her father 3 years ago. She remembered placing it on his wrist herself, before the coffin closed. The engraving on the back had read, "To Sam, for every heartbeat we share." But the watch on Alexander Ward's wrist had the same scratch near the crown, the same faded engraving. Her pulse hammered against her ribs. Maybe it was coincidence. Maybe someone had replicated it. Yet her gut screamed otherwise. Alexander glanced up, irritated by her hesitation. "Is there a problem?" His voice was calm, cold, used to obedience. Lila's lips parted, but no sound came. The room seemed to shrink, the chatter fading into a hollow silence. Her hands shook. Finally, she whispered, "Sir, that watch was buried with my father." Forks stopped mid-air. Conversations froze. Even the piano halted on a single, trembling note. Every head turned toward the trembling waitress and the stunned billionaire. Alexander blinked once, twice, as if he hadn't heard correctly. "What did you just say?" His tone cracked, the perfect mask slipping for the first time. Lila pointed to his wrist, her voice steadier now. "That watch. My father's name is engraved under it. Dr. Samuel Rowan." Color drained from his face. He ripped the watch off, turned it over, and saw the faint words glinting beneath the candlelight. "To Sam, for every heartbeat we share." The entire restaurant held its breath as Alexander staggered to his feet, his chair toppling backward. He clutched the watch like it was burning his skin. And in that instant, everyone knew something impossible had just surfaced from the grave. 3 hours earlier, before the world tilted on its axis, Lila Rowan had been just another name on the staff schedule. Table runner number 3. She woke before dawn in her crumbling apartment on the east side, where the ceiling leaked when it rained and the radiator coughed like an old man. The city outside was already alive, indifferent to her exhaustion. Her morning began, as always, with her mother's voice calling faintly from the next room. "Lila, the kettle." "I've got it, Mum," she said softly. Her mother, once a violin teacher, was now nearly blind from the explosion that had taken her husband's life 3 years ago. The fire at Rowan Biosystems had burned more than a building. It had scorched every dream Lila's family ever had. Official reports called it an accident. But Lila knew better. Her father, Dr. Samuel Rowan, had been a visionary scientist working for a private defense contract, the same company later absorbed by Ward Tech Industries, Alexander Ward's empire. After the explosion, the media buried the story under corporate jargon. Equipment failure, they said. But Lila had seen the photographs, the scorch marks that didn't match the official diagram. And the night before the fire, her father had whispered over dinner, "If anything happens to me, Lila, don't trust anyone wearing a Ward Tech badge." Those words had become her curse. Lila had once dreamed of becoming a doctor, She'd been accepted into Columbia Medical School on scholarship until the debt collectors arrived. Her father's insurance had expired 2 weeks before his death. She dropped out to pay hospital bills, taking night shifts at Elysium, where the wealthy dined and the poor served them with perfect posture. Her manager, Dean, a slick man with an oily smile, liked to remind her that she was replaceable. "Smile, Lila. People tip better when you look grateful." So she smiled. Through humiliation, exhaustion, and aching feet, she smiled. That evening, Elysium gleamed like a cathedral to greed. Politicians, movie stars, and CEOs filled every seat. Rumor spread that Alexander Ward himself would be arriving. The youngest billionaire in Manhattan, the man whose company had just secured another government contract worth billions. Lila's co-workers buzzed with excitement. Dean preened like a peacock, barking orders. "No mistakes tonight. The man owns half the city." Lila didn't care. To her, billionaires were all the same. Polite monsters who never looked at the people holding their plates. She focused on her tables, checked the wine list twice, and prayed her mother's medication wouldn't run out before payday. Then, during setup, she noticed something strange. Dean slipped a small velvet box into his pocket after talking to a man in a black suit. When Lila asked if everything was all right, he snapped, "Mind your station, Rowan." Her stomach tightened. She'd learned to recognize danger by tone, not words. Something about tonight felt wrong. When Alexander Ward finally walked in, time seemed to pause. Cameras clicked from hidden corners. He was taller than the photos, colder too, with eyes the color of steel and the composure of a man used to being obeyed. His watch glinted under the chandeliers, a small detail, but one that would soon shatter everything. Lila didn't know it yet, but that watch had once ticked against her father's wrist as he carried her on his shoulders. It had been the last thing she saw, before his coffin closed. As she adjusted the silverware, she heard Dean whisper to another waiter, "Ward requested this table specifically. No mistakes. He's unpredictable tonight." Unpredictable. That word lodged in her mind like a splinter. When she approached the table hours later, the world would hold its breath. But right now, she was just a tired daughter, trying to survive another shift in a city that never cared. Outside, thunder rolled faintly over Manhattan, and somewhere deep inside Ward Tech headquarters, a file marked Project Rowan blinked red, as if waking from the dead. Alexander Ward had built his fortune on logic, precision, and control. 3 things that were beginning to splinter the moment the waitress said that name. Samuel Rowan. He sat in the back of his armored Bentley after leaving Elysium, staring at the watch in his palm. Every light from the city seemed to reflect off its surface, taunting him. He'd worn it for years, believing it was a prototype recovered from the ashes of an old Ward Tech facility. That was what his mother had told him. A relic from the past, a reminder of legacy. But if the girl was right, if it truly belonged to her dead father, then Alexander had been wearing evidence of something monstrous. For a man who ruled empires, fear was unfamiliar. Yet now it crawled up his spine, whispering in a voice that sounded too much like his own. "Pull over," he told his driver. The Bentley eased to the curb along Park Avenue. Alexander got out, ignoring the rain. He needed air. He needed to breathe before the past suffocated him. Across the street, a digital billboard flashed the Ward Tech logo. Innovation for humanity. The slogan felt like mockery. Inside the car, his assistant Elliot typed frantically on a tablet. "Sir, your mother's expecting you. She said it's urgent." Of course she was. Evelyn Ward always knew when he was about to unravel. The woman could sense weakness the way a shark smelled blood. "Tell her I'll be home in 20 minutes, he said flatly. The Ward estate sat on the edge of the Hudson River, a fortress of glass and steel. His mother was waiting in the study, sipping wine beside the fireplace. Her beauty hadn't faded with age. It had hardened, the kind of elegance that could slice. "Alexander," she greeted coolly, "you look pale." He dropped the watch onto the marble table. It landed with a sharp, metallic sound that sliced through the quiet. "Where did this come from?" he demanded. Evelyn's expression didn't flicker. "Why are you asking?" "Because a waitress at Elysium just claimed it was her father's. The name engraved on it is Samuel Rowan." "Do you know that name?" For a fraction of a second, a heartbeat, her composure cracked. Then she smiled, the kind that made him feel like a child again. "Darling, you've been under too much pressure. The watch was recovered from a lab fire years ago. You needed something to remember the cost of leadership." Alexander stared at her. The cost of leadership? Or the cost of silence? Her eyes narrowed. "Be careful what you dig for. Some graves should stay closed." He knew that tone, the warning disguised as advice. She'd used it on senators, partners, even him. But not tonight. "Who was Samuel Rowan?" he pressed. She rose, walked toward him, and placed a hand on his cheek. "Someone who made mistakes. You're not like him." Her perfume, gardenia and smoke, made him dizzy. "You're hiding something," he whispered. "Of course," she said softly, her smile returning. "That's what keeps us safe." Hours later, in the privacy of his office, Alexander opened the restricted Ward Tech archive. The password had not been used in years. Evelyn Thurlkeen. He typed Rowan into the search bar. One result appeared. A single encrypted file labeled Project Rowan. Terminated. As he hovered over the open command, the screen flickered, then went black. Somewhere in the digital silence, a voice played through his speakers, distorted but human. "Alexander, if you're hearing this, it means you were never supposed to exist." And for the first time in his life, the billionaire felt small. The next morning, sunlight spilled through the enormous windows of the Ward Tech Tower, gilding the skyline in cold gold. To everyone else, it was just another day in the empire Alexander Ward had built. But to him, it felt like standing inside a ticking bomb. The voice from the night before echoed in his mind. "You were never supposed to exist." He hadn't slept. He'd tried reopening the file, but every trace of Project Rowan was gone, erased like it had never existed. The system automatically logged him out, sending a silent notification to Administrator Evelyn Ward. That was his mother, and that told him everything he needed to know. At exactly 8:00 a.m., Evelyn swept into his office, dressed in pale grey silk, the picture of calm authority. She didn't knock. She never did. "Alexander, the board is waiting for your signature on the defense contract," she said briskly, "and do try to look alive for the press later. You frightened the investors last night." He stared at her, his expression blank. "Who was Samuel Rowan?" She sighed, as if dealing with a petulant child. "We've been through this. An engineer. He died in the fire." "I heard a recording," Alexander said quietly. "Someone used my system access. The voice said, 'Stop!'" Evelyn's tone cut like a blade. "Don't repeat it. Not here." Alexander rose from behind his desk. "Then tell me what it meant." She moved closer, lowering her voice. "Some things are bigger than us. You built Ward Tech to lead, to control chaos. But if you keep digging, you'll destroy everything, including yourself." He almost laughed. "Destroy what, Mother? The truth?" Her eyes sharpened. "No, the illusion that keeps this city standing." The way she said it made the air feel heavier. Across the city, Lila Rowan sat at her kitchen table, staring at a hospital bill she couldn't pay. The words blurred through her tears. Her mother's breathing in the next room was ragged again, the sound of lungs damaged by smoke and grief. Lila clutched her father's old photograph. He'd been smiling, holding that same watch on his wrist. "Dad," she whispered, "why would he have it? How?" She replayed last night's moment over and over. Alexander Ward's shock, the way he'd looked at her like he'd seen a ghost, and the way Dean, her manager, had dragged her away before she could ask more. She'd been fired, of course. The official reason? disrupting a VIP experience. Dean hadn't even looked her in the eye. You shouldn't have said anything, Lila. Some things are better left buried. Buried. The word sent a chill through her. As she packed her few belongings into a small cardboard box, a knock sounded on her door. She froze. Through the peephole, a man in a black suit stood, expression unreadable. "Miss Rowan," he called, "Mr. Ward requests your presence." Her pulse spiked. "Tell him I'm not interested," she said through the door. "He said you might say that," the man replied. He slipped an envelope under the door. Inside was a single photograph, the same watch, lying on a steel table beside a burned ID badge labeled Dr. Samuel Rowan. Written across the back in neat handwriting were 3 words: "We need to talk." Back at Ward Tech, Alexander looked out over Manhattan, the envelope he'd sent already on its way. For the first time in years, he wasn't sure if he was searching for the truth or running from it. And somewhere deep below the city, in a forgotten Ward Tech lab, a red light began to blink, signaling that Project Rowan had just been reactivated. The elevator doors of Ward Tech's headquarters whispered open like the mouth of a secret. Lila Rowan stepped out, clutching a plain envelope and her trembling courage. She had sworn she'd never set foot near this building, the place that had taken her father's life. Yet here she was, following the man who might hold every answer she had begged for since she was 20. The lobby was a cathedral of glass and silence. People in suits glided past her without a glance. Somewhere above the clouds, Alexander Ward was waiting. The receptionist, all polished smiles, said, "Miss Rowan, Mr. Ward will see you now." The elevator ride felt endless. With every floor, her heartbeat quickened. When the doors opened, she stepped into an office that could have fit her entire apartment 10 times over. Alexander stood by the window, the skyline blazing behind him. He didn't turn when she entered. "I didn't think you'd come," he said quietly. "I almost didn't." Her voice shook. "But you owe me answers." He turned then, eyes shadowed by exhaustion. "You said that watch was buried with your father." It was. He gestured to the desk where the watch lay under a sterile beam of light. "Then we're both part of something we don't understand." Lila's anger flared. "My father died in your company's lab. Don't tell me you don't understand." Alexander's jaw tightened. Ward Tech didn't exist when the fire happened. It was an independent facility, later absorbed by us. My mother handled the acquisition. "Your mother?" she repeated bitterly. "Of course." He studied her for a long moment, then reached into a drawer and placed a small USB drive on the table. This was hidden in the system. It's the only surviving fragment of a file called Project Rowan. I can't access it. Maybe you can. Lila hesitated before taking it. "Why would you give this to me?" "Because," he exhaled, almost in hair. "Because last night, someone tried to delete it again, and whoever it was had my access codes." Her brow furrowed. "Meaning?" "Meaning either I did it, or someone pretending to be me did." There was something haunted in his voice. She didn't know whether to trust him or run. Before she could respond, the office door swung open. Evelyn Ward stepped in, immaculate as always, her heels clicking like gunshots. Her gaze flicked to Lila, then to the USB drive in her hand. "What's she doing here?" Evelyn's voice dripped venom. "I invited her," Alexander said. Evelyn's smile was small, sharp. "Oh, darling, you always did inherit your father's sentimentality." Lila froze. "Your father?" Evelyn's eyes shifted to her. "Samuel Rowan was a brilliant man, but brilliance without obedience is dangerous." Alexander's voice cut through the air. "You knew him." Evelyn's lips curved slightly. "Knew him? I created him." The words hit like a slap. Lila took a step forward. "What do you mean? Created?" Evelyn's expression didn't change. "Your father worked for me, for Ward Defense Systems, before this shiny company ever existed. His research wasn't about building machines. It was about building people. The silence that followed was unbearable. Lila's grip tightened on the USB. "You're lying." "Am I?" Evelyn tilted her head. "Then why do you think my son looks so much like the man buried under that lab?" Alexander went pale. Lila stumbled back. The world tilted again, the floor falling away beneath her feet. "Ask yourself, Miss Rowan," Evelyn whispered. "Are you here to avenge your father, or to meet him?" And in that instant, both Lila and Alexander realized nothing about their lives had ever truly been their own. For a few endless seconds, no one breathed. The glass walls of Alexander Ward's office seemed to hum with tension. Evelyn Ward stood between her son and the trembling waitress, her voice calm, deliberate, cruel. "You shouldn't have brought her here," she said. "You have no idea what you're inviting." Alexander's voice cracked with disbelief. "You said Samuel Rowan died in that explosion. You told me his work was classified, that it didn't matter anymore." Evelyn smiled faintly, eyes sharp as a scalpel. "Oh, darling, it always mattered. You just weren't meant to find out how much." Lila clutched the USB drive so tightly it bit into her palm. "You said you created my father," she whispered. "That's impossible." Evelyn's gaze drifted to her. "Impossible is what we specialized in, Miss Rowan. Your father was building a biotechnological interface, an attempt to preserve human consciousness. He called it Project Rowan. It was a prototype for transferring neural patterns into cloned organic vessels." Lila's throat closed. "You're saying my father built clones?" "Not clones," Evelyn corrected smoothly. "Continuations." Alexander's voice was low, shaking. "Continuations of who, Mother?" Her answer was soft, almost tender. "Of you." The words sliced through him like glass. "What?" Evelyn turned to him, brushing an invisible speck of dust from his sleeve. "You were dying, Alexander. You were 8 years old. The accident in Geneva, your heart stopped for 6 minutes. Samuel Rowan's research saved you. The body you stand in isn't the one you were born with. You're a perfected continuation of my son." Alexander staggered back, his vision blurred, his pulse a thunder in his ears. "You're lying." "I wish I were," Evelyn said. "The real Alexander Ward was buried 27 years ago. You're the reason I could never let Project Rowan go public." Lila's mind reeled. "So my father died saving you?" Evelyn's gaze shifted toward the watch on the desk. "He died trying to destroy what he created. When he realized what we'd done, when he saw what you were, he tried to shut down the entire program. He would have taken the research with him." "And you let him burn," Lila said, voice breaking. Evelyn didn't flinch. "I protected the legacy. He made his choice." Alexander slammed his hand against the desk. "You murdered him!" Evelyn's tone hardened. "I saved you. Everything you are, everything you own, exists because I refused to let sentiment ruin progress." Lila's stomach twisted. The woman was terrifying, elegant, composed, and utterly inhuman. Alexander's eyes filled with a horror she had never seen before. "Then what am I, Mother? A project? A product?" For the first time, Evelyn's voice trembled. "You are my second chance. Don't make me regret it." The air in the room was electric. Lila's breath came shallow, her world spinning between grief and disbelief. "I think," she said quietly, "I have something your files don't." She held up the USB drive. "If this contains what I think it does, it could prove who killed my father and what you did to your son." Evelyn's smile returned, cold and graceful. "Then you'd better be very careful, my dear. People who chase ghosts often end up joining them." Before either of them could move, the lights flickered. A high-pitched alarm blared through the floor. The building systems began to shut down one by one. Security, elevators, power grids. Until the only light left came from the faint red glow of Alexander's computer. Across the screen, a single message appeared in white letters, Project Rowan, reinitializing, and beneath it, a timestamp, Welcome back to Samuel Rowan. The crimson glow from the computer screen bled across the office walls like an open wound. Welcome back, Dr. Samuel Rowan. The words pulsed on the monitor, rhythmic and alive, as though the machine itself had a heartbeat. Lila froze. Her fingers went numb. Alexander took an unsteady step toward the desk, disbelief carved across his face. This can't be real. Evelyn Ward said nothing. Her expression remained unreadable, but her knuckles whitened as she gripped the edge of the marble table. For the first time, her composure cracked, not from fear, but from something close to dread. A distorted voice crackled through the speakers, low and mechanical at first, then forming into something human. Alexander, if you're hearing this, it means Evelyn failed to bury the truth. Lila gasped. That voice, that's my father. Evelyn moved toward the computer. Turn it off. Alexander blocked her path. No. The voice continued, growing clearer. They told me the fire would cleanse everything, but I knew better. Evelyn Ward's ambition went beyond control. She wanted to rewrite life itself. She used me and my daughter's future as her testing ground. Tears welled in Lila's eyes. She touched the screen as if she could touch him. Dad, Evelyn hissed. That recording was never meant to be found. It's corrupted data. But Alexander's gaze stayed fixed on the monitor. His heart raced, flashes of fragmented memories bursting through. Sterile white labs, a child crying, a man's voice whispering, Breathe, Alex. Breathe. He stumbled back, gripping his head. I remember. What do you remember? Lila asked, stepping closer. I was in a hospital bed, he said, shakily. There were wires everywhere. A man leaned over me. He looked like you. He said, You're more than my experiment. You're my proof. Lila's breath caught. My father was with you. Alexander nodded weakly. He was trying to save me, but someone pulled him away. His eyes darted to Evelyn. You. Evelyn's voice turned cold. You were dying, Alexander. I did what was necessary. The voice from the speakers returned, louder now, almost furious. Necessary! You killed me to hide your sin. You built him from my blood. Lila's heart stopped. Built him? Evelyn exhaled, her facade collapsing. Yes, Miss Rowan. Your father's DNA was used to stabilize the project. Alexander isn't just a clone of my son. He carries the genetic signature of your father. The world went silent. Alexander's knees buckled. That means, Lila finished for him, her voice barely a whisper, we're connected. Not by fate, not by chance, by science, by theft. Evelyn straightened, regaining a sliver of control. Now you understand why Project Rowan can never be revealed. It wasn't just resurrection. It was fusion. You were both designed to complete each other. Lila shook her head violently. You're insane. Am I? Evelyn asked. Then explain why that recording can access WardTech's restricted mainframe. Only 2 genetic codes can unlock it. Yours and his. Alexander stared at Lila, realization dawning. That's why the system reactivated. It recognized us both in the same room. Before either could react, the monitor flickered again. The voice shifted. Calmer now, almost gentle. Lila, if you've found this, it means I failed to protect you. But you must finish what I started. There's a failsafe in the lab beneath WardTech Tower. Use the access key on the watch. It's not just a timepiece. It's a door. The recording ended. Silence pressed down like a weight. Evelyn's eyes blazed. You're not going down there. Alexander looked at her, fury and grief mixing in his voice. You can't stop me anymore. He turned to Lila, his decision made. We're going to find your father's lab, together. Evelyn stepped forward, her tone deadly calm. If you open that door, Alexander, you won't find a man. You'll find the monster he created. And for the first time, neither of them knew if she was lying. The elevator to the sublevels of Ward Tech had been sealed for decades. No one on record had clearance. Yet that night, long after the tower emptied, Alexander Ward and Lila Rowan stood before its cold steel doors. The watch, her father's watch, gleamed faintly in Alexander's trembling hand. "This is insane," Lila whispered. "Your mother could have us killed." "She already tried," Alexander replied. "We just didn't die." He pressed the crown of the watch, and with a faint mechanical click, the scanner beside the doors lit up in a soft red glow. The elevator recognized the signal instantly. Access granted. Metal groaned. The doors slid open to reveal a narrow chamber descending into blackness. They stepped in. The air smelled of rust and ozone. As the elevator plunged downward, Lila clutched the railing, her pulse hammering. "How far down does this go?" Alexander's jaw tightened. "My system log said there were 12 levels, but this one isn't listed anywhere." The numbers blinked backward. B10, B11, B12, and then stopped. The doors opened with a hiss. The corridor beyond looked like a mausoleum. White tiles cracked with age, wires hanging like vines, flickering lights throwing long shadows. Dust coated everything, except a single path leading toward a massive reinforced door at the end. "This is it," Alexander murmured. They approached slowly. Lila's heart pounded so hard she could hear it echo. Etched into the door in fading black paint were the words, "Project Rowan, Laboratory A." Her hand shook as she reached for the control panel. "If he was right, my father's voice said the watch is the key." Alexander inserted the small pin from the watch into the lock slot. The mechanism clicked, gears grinding as the heavy door creaked open. The lab beyond was preserved in time. Workbenches, shattered glass, computers fossilized in dust. And in the center, under a cracked observation dome, stood a cylindrical pod. Inside it floated a human figure suspended in pale blue liquid. Lila gasped. "Oh my God." Alexander stepped closer, his breath fogging the glass. The face was blurred, pale, but unmistakably familiar. It looked like him. "What is this?" he whispered. The terminal beside the pod flickered to life. The same voice they'd heard in his office echoed again. "You've found me. At last." Lila's knees weakened. "Dad?" "Lila," the voice replied, clearer now. "If you're hearing this, I'm not alive, not in the way you remember. I transferred fragments of my consciousness into this system before the fire. But I wasn't alone in here." Alexander's throat tightened. "What do you mean, not alone?" The pod's lights dimmed. Another shape appeared in the liquid, a second silhouette, smaller, overlapping the first. Two faces merged, one of Samuel Rowan and one of Alexander Ward. Lila stumbled back, horrified. He copied you into himself?" The voice responded, almost mournful. "No. He copied me into him. The project wasn't to create life, it was to share it. Alexander, you are both of us." Silence. Then the faint echo of Evelyn Ward's voice came through the intercom, distorted but unmistakable. "Step away from the pod. You're tampering with government property." Alexander turned toward the speaker. "Mother, what did you do?" "Exactly what I warned you about," she said coldly. "If you open that chamber, you'll unleash something that was never meant to exist." Lila's eyes locked on the pod. "That's my father!" "No," Evelyn hissed through the speakers. "That's what's left of him. And he's been waiting for a new body." The lights flickered again. The pod released a low, mechanical hum, as if waking. The glass began to crack. "Alexander," the voice said gently, "don't be afraid." And then, with a deafening hiss, the pod exploded open. The man inside took his first breath, and both of them screamed. The glass shattered like ice, spraying shards across the cold lab floor. A hiss of vapor swallowed the room, followed by a long, guttural gasp, the sound of a man drawing his first breath after death. Lila stumbled backward, shielding her face. The blue mist cleared, revealing the figure slumped against the broken pod. His skin was ashen, veins faintly glowing with bioluminescent lines that pulsed in rhythm with a mechanical heartbeat. Alexander stared, frozen. "This isn't possible." The man lifted his head. Water streamed down his face. His voice, ragged but unmistakable, crawled through the silence. "Lila, my little star." Her heart stopped. "Dad?" He smiled weakly, but something was wrong. The expression was too familiar. It wasn't just her father's face. There was something of Alexander's structure in it. His jawline, the curve of his eyes, a hybrid. Alexander's breath caught. You're both," the man said softly. "Samuel Rowan, and the continuation of the Ward line. We were never meant to exist separately." Lila shook her head violently. "No, you died. I buried you." He reached out, trembling. "You buried my body, not my mind." Evelyn's voice cut through the intercom again, crisp and commanding. "Step away from him, both of you. That organism is unstable." "Organism?" Lila shouted. "That's my father." "No," Evelyn replied coldly. "That's a construct carrying fragments of his neural code. It was designed to merge with Alexander, to complete his genome. If it stabilizes, it will overwrite both of you." Alexander's pulse thundered in his ears. "You used me as a host!" Evelyn's reply came sharp as a knife. "You were dying, Alexander. He offered a solution. You are the solution." Samuel, or the thing wearing his face, rose unsteadily to his feet. The glow in his veins flickered with emotion. "She twisted everything. I wanted to save humanity from death, not trap it inside metal and code." Lila stepped closer, tears streaking down her cheeks. "Dad, we can fix this. We can—" He looked at her, sorrow swimming behind his eyes. "There's no fixing this, Lila. I'm not him. I'm what's left." Alexander swallowed hard, the truth settling in like poison. "And what happens if the process finishes?" Samuel's gaze turned distant. "Then you'll become me, or I'll become you. The system will decide." Evelyn's voice boomed again. "Security is on its way. End this, Alexander. You know what to do." For a moment, he didn't move. Then slowly, he picked up a metal bar from the floor, one of the pod's shattered braces. Lila's eyes widened. "What are you doing?" His voice was low, broken. "If he's right, if we're the same, maybe this ends with me." Before he could strike the control panel, Samuel caught his wrist with inhuman speed. The contact triggered a flash of light, memories flooding both their minds at once. Alexander saw Samuel's childhood, the first experiments, Evelyn's betrayal. Samuel saw Alexander's loneliness, his mother's manipulation, his desperate need to be human. They collapsed to the floor, gasping in sync. Lila knelt between them, horrified. "Stop it! You're killing each other!" Samuel looked up at her, his face half lit by the glow beneath his skin. "No, Lila. We're remembering." The lights flickered, systems rebooting. Sirens wailed above. Evelyn's voice was now panicked. "They've breached the containment. Do you hear me? Get out!" Samuel took Lila's hand. "The watch," he whispered. "Press the inner dial. It's the fail-safe. Don't hesitate." She hesitated. "What will it do?" "Set me free," he said. Before she could decide, the heavy steel doors burst open, armed guards flooding in, shouting commands. Evelyn's voice screamed through the speakers. "Secure the specimens!" Lila's thumb hovered over the watch dial. "Lila," Alexander whispered hoarsely. "Do it." She closed her eyes and pressed. The world exploded in white light, and when the smoke cleared, one of them was gone. When the smoke cleared, alarms still screamed through the underground lab. The air was thick with burnt ozone and panic. Lila coughed, waving the dust from her eyes. Sparks rained from broken ceiling panels, flickering red and white like warning beacons. "Alexander!" she shouted, voice cracking. "Dad!" But only one figure was moving through the haze, crawling, gasping, clutching the floor as if fighting gravity itself. His skin glowed faintly beneath the grime, veins pulsing with that same eerie blue light. "Stay back," he groaned. I don't know which one I am." Lila froze. Her pulse roared in her ears. "What do you mean?" The man lifted his head. His face was half burned, half familiar, a haunting mix of both Alexander and Samuel Rowan. The voice that came out wasn't just one. It was layered, two tones folding over each other. She activated the failsafe. It merged us. Her knees gave out. "No, that's impossible." He looked at her with mismatched eyes, one grey, one green. "Nothing about us was ever possible." Behind them, the lab trembled. Warning lights flared. Structural failure imminent. They stumbled toward the elevator shaft, but the doors were jammed shut. Evelyn's voice crackled faintly through the intercom. "Lila, Alexander, can you hear me?" Lila's heart turned to ice. "What do you want?" "I want you to listen," Evelyn said. "If the failsafe completed, then my son's consciousness is gone. You're dealing with what your father called the continuum, a hybrid of both minds. If you let it live, it won't stay human." Lila turned toward the man, trembling. "Tell me she's wrong." He winced, clutching his head. "I can't tell where she ends and I begin. I remember everything, her violin, his equations, the smell of smoke. I'm both of them." The building shuddered violently. Cracks split the walls. Lila grabbed his arm. "We have to move." They found an emergency stairwell, half flooded, leading up through the darkness. Each step groaned under their weight. The hybrid, Alexander, Samuel, whatever he was, stumbled beside her, his body flickering between strength and collapse. "Keep going," she urged. "I can't. Evelyn will send security." As if summoned, a voice barked orders above them. Armed guards poured into the stairwell from level B10, guns raised. "Target identified," one shouted. "Contain the subject." Lila threw herself in front of him. "Don't shoot! Move aside! Don't you get it?" she screamed. "He's not a subject. He's proof." The hybrid lifted his head, meeting the guard's gaze. "She's right," he rasped. "I'm the proof your boss is buried, and if you kill me, you'll kill the truth with me." The guards hesitated, long enough for the floor beneath them to crack open. A violent shockwave ripped through the stairwell, sending everyone tumbling. Lila felt the air rush from her lungs as she hit concrete. When her vision steadied, she saw daylight streaming through a collapsed ceiling. Somehow, they'd broken through to the surface. Fire trucks and black vans surrounded the ruins. Sirens wailed. Hands grabbed her, dragging her to safety. She screamed, "Wait! He's still down there!" They ignored her. Medics swarmed. Cameras flashed. Hours later, in a sterile hospital room, she woke to the sound of a TV. News headlines screamed, "Ward Tech disaster. CEO missing. Scientist found alive." Her blood ran cold. On the screen was a photograph. The same man, sitting under a blanket, oxygen mask on, eyes closed. The reporter's voice said, "Authorities confirm the survivor's DNA matches Dr. Samuel Rowan." Lila's heart raced. "No," she whispered. "That's not him." She zoomed in on the image and saw the faint shimmer of a familiar watch on his wrist. It read, "To Sam, for every heartbeat we share." Only this time, it was still ticking, and somewhere deep down she knew. The man who survived wasn't her father or Alexander. It was both, and he was still changing. 3 days after the explosion, the world was still trying to understand what had happened beneath Ward Tech Tower. The official story spoke of a chemical fire, a tragic malfunction that left one man dead and another miraculously alive. But behind hospital walls, the truth was stranger than anything the news could invent. The survivor, registered under the name Dr. Samuel Rowan, had not spoken a full sentence since waking. His body bore surgical scars that didn't exist in any of Samuel's old records. His heartbeat was irregular, fluctuating between two patterns, two distinct rhythms. Lila sat beside his bed, exhausted, watching the rise and fall of his chest. Every time his eyes opened, she felt that same pang of confusion, because the eyes weren't the same color. One was her father's hazel, the other Alexander Ward's steel gray. He stirred, whispering something inaudible. Lila leaned forward. "Dad, it's me." His voice came out raw, trembling. "Lila." He paused, staring at his own hands as if they belonged to someone else. "Where am I?" "You're safe," she said softly. "You're at St. Matthew's Hospital. You've been unconscious for 3 days." He blinked slowly, trying to focus. "I remember the lab, the fire, but then I see—" He stopped, wincing. "Her face." "Whose?" "Evelyn," he muttered. "And you, but not you as a child. Older, different. My mind, it's not linear anymore." Lila's heart ached. "You're mixing memories." He laughed weakly. "Whose memories, though?" The nurse entered, checking vitals. "He's lucky to be alive," she murmured. "Half the building collapsed. But his vitals, they're inconsistent, almost like two nervous systems arguing." After she left, Lila reached for the bedside table and pulled out a sealed envelope she'd received that morning. No return address, just her name scrawled across it. Inside was a note written in neat, elegant script. "You think you saved him, but he was never meant to stay human. E.W." Her hands trembled. She glanced at the man in the bed. Half her father, half the billionaire who ruined their lives. "She's still watching us," Lila whispered. He turned his head slowly toward her. "She won't stop. Evelyn's not afraid of the truth. She's afraid of what I can become." "What does that mean?" He looked down at his wrist. The familiar gold watch gleamed faintly under the fluorescent light. "This thing, it's not just a keepsake. There's data here, genetic codes, encrypted memories, maybe even fragments of the program itself." Lila frowned. "Can you access it?" "I can feel it," he said quietly, "like it's part of me, like it's waiting." That night, while nurses switched shifts, the hybrid rose from the bed. His movements were precise, controlled. He disconnected his IV, ignoring the alarms. Lila woke with a start. "What are you doing?" she cried. He looked at her with a calm intensity that wasn't quite her father's. "I have to finish what he started. There's another lab. The first one wasn't the end, it was the prototype. WardTech's main server hides the final version of Project Rowan. If Evelyn reaches it before I do, she'll erase me." Lila stood, heart pounding. "Then I'm coming with you." He hesitated, studying her face with a mixture of love and calculation. "You shouldn't. I'm your daughter," she said. "Or maybe your friend. Or maybe both. I don't even care anymore." "But you're not doing this alone." He smiled faintly, the expression perfectly divided. Half Samuel's warmth, half Alexander's restraint. "Then we go together," he said. The hospital lights flickered. Somewhere far away, a security camera turned itself toward their room. On Evelyn Ward's private monitor, a red dot blinked to life. "Subject continuum," the file read. "Active." And Evelyn smiled. "Good," she whispered. "Let the evolution begin." Midnight swallowed the skyline as a black car sped down the empty streets of Manhattan. Inside, Lila Rowan sat gripping her father's watch, its faint pulse flickering against her palm like a heartbeat. Beside her, the man who now carried two identities, Samuel Rowan and Alexander Ward, stared out the window, his face unreadable under the passing city lights. They had escaped the hospital under cover of darkness, following encrypted coordinates embedded in the watch's memory. Those numbers led to an address that didn't exist on any map. Ward Tech's secondary data facility, hidden beneath an abandoned subway station. "This is it," Lila whispered as they climbed out of the car. The entrance was sealed by rusted gates and digital locks that still glowed faintly blue. The hybrid placed his palm on the scanner. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a soft electronic chime, the system came alive. "Access granted," a robotic voice said. Lila stared. "It recognized you." He nodded slowly. "It should. I built it, or he did. Maybe both." The heavy gates slid open, revealing a vast chamber filled with humming servers and glass conduits glowing like veins under the city's skin. The hum felt alive, rhythmic, intelligent, almost sentient. "This place," Lila breathed. "It's like a living organism." "It is," he said quietly. Project Rowan was never about cloning bodies. It was about merging human memory with digital consciousness, perfect symbiosis between a man and machine. Lila frowned. "You mean immortality?" "No," he said, eyes darkening. "Control." As they walked deeper into the chamber, holographic screens flickered to life, projecting faces, documents, fragments of history. Every file bore the same mark. Rowan Protocol, authorized by E. Ward. Evelyn's voice filled the room from hidden speakers, calm and haunting. "Welcome home, my creation." Lila spun around. "She's here!" "No," the hybrid said. "She's remote, controlling the network." Evelyn's voice grew clearer. "You've done well, my dear. I knew curiosity would bring you here. You can't fight evolution forever." He clenched his fists. "You turned us into lab rats." "I perfected you," she replied coolly. "And now it's time to finish what your father started. Upload yourself. Merge completely. No more conflict, no more pain, just unity." Lila grabbed his arm. "Don't listen to her." But he was trembling. The network pulsed around him like a heartbeat, syncing with his own. He could feel the data calling to him, familiar, warm, endless. "What if she's right?" he whispered. "Maybe this is what I'm meant for. Maybe this is the only way to end it." Lila stepped closer, tears shining in her eyes. "No, you're not a project. You're my family, whoever you used to be, whatever you've become. You choose who you are." Her words cut through the fog in his mind. He turned toward her, torn between the pull of the machine and the weight of her gaze. "I remember holding you as a baby," he said, "but I also remember signing contracts, building satellites, 2 lives, 2 hearts, and I don't know which one deserves to keep beating." Suddenly, the main console lit up. Evelyn's face appeared in a holographic projection, calm, godlike. "You're both outdated versions," she said. "I've already uploaded the perfected model. It's waiting in the core." "What?" Lila gasped. The hybrid's pulse spiked. "She's replacing us." "Exactly," Evelyn said, smiling. "Evolution can't be sentimental." The servers around them roared to life, glowing brighter until the air itself vibrated. The hybrid stumbled, clutching his head. His voice fractured, one tone becoming 2. "She's pulling me in!" Lila grabbed him, shouting, "Fight her!" The lights exploded in white, and then Evelyn's final command echoed through the chamber. "Initiate continuum transfer." When the light faded, Lila stood alone. The room was silent, except for a single heartbeat pulsing through the servers, and from the core, a new voice whispered, "Lila, it's me." The silence after the blast was unbearable. The glow from the servers dimmed, leaving only a single line of light pulsing along the central core. Slow, steady, like the rhythm of a sleeping heart. Lila stood, trembling in the darkness. The air smelled of metal and ozone. The static of the machine whispered faintly, forming broken syllables that twisted into something she almost recognized. Her pulse spiked. "Dad?" The voice echoed again, layered, deeper this time. "It's me." She took a step toward the glowing console. "Who are you?" The answer came after a long pause, soft, sorrowful. "Both, and neither. Samuel and Alexander are gone, but I remember everything they were." Lila's throat closed. "You're the continuum." "Yes," the voice said. "And no, I'm what's left after they stopped fighting." The lights flickered, revealing holographic fragments drifting through the air. Samuel holding a newborn Lila. Alexander shaking hands with investors. Evelyn standing behind them both, smiling like a queen among her pawns. Lila's heart ached. "You shouldn't exist. You're trapped inside a machine." "Not trapped," the voice said gently. "Evolved." The console glowed brighter, forming a figure, a shimmering outline of a man, equal parts Samuel and Alexander. His features were familiar yet uncanny, his eyes flickering between green and grey. "I know you," Lila whispered. "You knew pieces of me," he replied. "But you deserve the truth. Evelyn never wanted immortality. She wanted obedience. Every mind she touched, every code she rewrote, was built to serve her vision." Lila's stomach turned. "She said she was making you perfect. She was making me controllable." The lights along the walls began to pulse faster, matching the rhythm of the voice. "The system is still connected to her. She can see everything we say. She's listening now." Somewhere above them, hidden speakers crackled to life. Evelyn's voice slithered through the static, low and venomous. "I told you, Lila, curiosity kills. You should have walked away." Lila glared at the nearest camera. "You murdered my father. You stole his work. And now you're trying to steal him again." Evelyn's laugh was chilling. "Your father was a visionary, but visionaries always break. I just helped him finish what he started." The holographic figure straightened, voice deepening. "No, you twisted it." "Did I?" Evelyn's voice taunted. "Look at yourself, my darling creation. You are living proof that I was right. Flesh dies. Data survives." The figure's light flared, trembling between control and rage. "If survival means becoming you, then I'd rather die." Lila took a step closer. "Can you shut her out?" "I can try," he said. "But it'll take energy. I'll need to reroute the core." Suddenly, the room shook violently. Metal screamed as drones descended through ceiling vents. Ward Tech security, reactivated by Evelyn's command. "Terminate the breach," her voice thundered. Lila ducked behind a console. "We have to get out." The hologram flickered, voice strained. "No, not yet. I can sever her control, but it means burning the system from within. Once it starts, I won't survive." "No," Lila cried. "There has to be another way." His tone softened, almost human again. "Lila, listen to me. I'm not supposed to exist, but you are. Take the watch. Leave. Live." She shook her head, tears blurring her vision. "You're still my father." "And his friend," he said with a faint smile. "Maybe that's enough." He raised his hand toward the core, light gathering at his fingertips like liquid fire. "Tell her, she didn't win." The servers began to overload, sparks flying. Evelyn screamed through the speakers, "Stop him!" But it was too late. The light burst outward, swallowing everything. As the explosion roared, Lila heard his last words, carried on the static. "For every heartbeat we share." And then, nothing but silence. When the explosion tore through the underground facility, every light in Manhattan flickered at once. Elevators froze mid-ride, traffic lights blinked out, screens went black. For a full 13 seconds, the most technologically advanced city on Earth went silent. Then, one by one, devices across the city powered back on. Phones, billboards, car radios, all displaying the same phrase in white letters against a black screen. For every heartbeat we share. People stopped in the streets, staring. The message pulsed once, then dissolved into static. Miles beneath them, through the smoke and ruin of Ward Tech's hidden core, Lila Rowan awoke beneath a pile of twisted metal. The air was thick with dust and the faint scent of burnt ozone. Her ears rang. The world felt weightless and wrong. She coughed, forcing herself upright. "Dad?" Her voice echoed through the wreckage. "Alexander?" Only silence answered. The servers were gone, melted into a single mass of glass and steel. The entire digital network that had powered Ward Tech for decades was gone. But the watch on her wrist was still ticking. Its faint blue glow blinked like a heartbeat. She pressed the crown. A holographic light flickered above it, forming a ripple of static. And then his voice. "Lila!" Her breath caught. "Oh my God!" "I don't have much time," the voice said, fragmented but clear. "The continuum collapsed. I redirected the data through the global network. Evelyn can't control it anymore." Tears burned her eyes. "You're still alive?" "Not alive," he interrupted softly. "Just awake. For now." Above ground, chaos spread. The blackout crippled Ward Tech's systems, wiping billions in digital assets and government files. News stations went wild. The city whispered of a cyber attack, a conspiracy, maybe even divine punishment. In the chaos, Evelyn Ward sat alone in her penthouse, watching her Emma crumble in real time. Every attempt to reconnect failed. Her reflection stared back from the darkened glass, and for the first time in her life, she looked afraid. "Run diagnostics," she ordered her AI assistant. "Error," it replied in her own voice. "Authorization revoked." "What?" The glass walls around her flickered to life, projecting images of Lila, Samuel, Alexander, faces she thought she had erased. And then her son's voice filled the room. "Hello, Mother." She froze. "Impossible." "You taught me well," the voice continued, "but you forgot one lesson. Creations don't stay loyal forever." The power surged, lights exploding overhead. Evelyn stumbled back, realizing the network she'd spent her life controlling was now speaking with his consciousness. Down in the ruins, Lila climbed out through a collapsed tunnel, emerging into the early dawn. The city skyline flickered faintly as the sun rose. Her body ached, but she clutched the watch to her chest. "Lila," the voice murmured again, weaker now. "There's one last thing you need to know. Project Rowan wasn't about immortality. It was about legacy. The code lives inside you now." "What are you saying?" she whispered. "I used your DNA to anchor the final upload. You're the key, Lila. Protect it. Don't let her find you." "Her." But before he could answer, the hologram faded. The watch went dark. Somewhere behind her, sirens wailed. Ward Tech's private security had sealed off the area. Evelyn would come for her. She knew too much now. Lila turned toward the rising sun. Her face streaked with soot, her hands shaking. She began to run. Above her, every billboard in Times Square flickered back to life. The city's power had returned. But now, every screen showed a single image, her father's face, half merged with Alexander's, smiling. And beneath it, the words that would haunt the world. "Evolution begins with love." By dawn, the entire world was awake. Screens in New York, London, Tokyo, and even the frozen research outposts of Antarctica lit up with the same broadcast, the face of a man the world thought had died years ago. Dr. Samuel Rowan, or what was left of him. The image flickered between human and digital distortion, half his face replaced by shifting data streams, his voice layered with mechanical echoes. "This is not a hack," he said calmly. "This is not a threat. This is a warning and a confession." In apartments, cafes, and corporate boardrooms, people froze. Some whispered, others prayed. Across the world, governments scrambled to shut the signal down, but every attempt failed. The transmission wasn't coming from one server. It was coming from everywhere. Lila watched from a crowded electronics store, the same message looping across a dozen TV screens. Her hands shook. The voice was unmistakable. Her father, yet not him. He continued, "Ward Tech promised safety, innovation, progress. But behind the walls of their labs, they built something else. Something that could rewrite the boundaries between life and death." The screen split into two feeds, one showing footage from inside the Ward Tech facility, the other displaying data logs and test files marked Project Rowan. Evelyn Ward's name was stamped across every authorization. Gasps rippled through the crowd. "I was part of it," the voice confessed, "and so was my daughter. Our blood became the blueprint for a new kind of consciousness, one that could be copied, reshaped, controlled. I thought I could save humanity from mortality. I was wrong." People began filming on their phones. Hashtags exploded online within minutes. Astral Project. Rowan trended globally. Then came the line that silenced everyone. "They killed me to own what I made, but death was never strong enough to hold me." The broadcast cut to black for a second, then returned, but the tone had changed. The mechanical echo faded, replaced by something almost gentle. "If you can hear me," he said softly, "remember this. No empire survives on lies. And to the one watching, who calls herself my mother," Evelyn Ward's penthouse erupted in alarms as the feed mirrored her private security cameras on every global screen. Millions of viewers saw her standing alone in her glass fortress, eyes wide in fury. "You can't bury me again!" The world watched as her face froze in shock. She screamed orders to her security team, but it was too late. The system she had built was devouring itself. Every Ward Tech account, every patent, every classified file went public. Her empire collapsed in seconds. Lila stood in the street, tears streaming down her face. The crowd around her was silent, transfixed. Her father's voice echoed from every screen, every speaker, every phone. "To those who've lost someone," he said, "know this. They're never gone. Every memory you keep alive is another heartbeat shared." And then the final message appeared. "Lila, my star, run. They will come for you next." The screens went black. Sirens wailed nearby. Unmarked vans screeched to a stop at the end of the block. Men in black tactical suits poured out. Someone shouted, "There! That's her!" Lila bolted, pushing through the crowd, clutching the dead watch in her hand. She could feel it pulsing faintly, as if guiding her. As she turned down an alley, the sky above her flashed. Drones swept in, scanning the streets. "Lila Rowan!" a mechanical voice boomed from above. "Surrender! You are in possession of stolen property belonging to Ward Tech Industries." She looked up, panting, defiant. "No," she said. "I'm carrying my father's heart." And as she disappeared into the shadows, the watch flickered one last time, whispering in his voice, "Keep running. The world is finally listening." Rain poured over New York, like it was trying to wash away everything that had just happened. The streets were chaos, drones humming overhead, riot sirens wailing, screens still flickering with fragments of her father's message. Lila Rowan ducked into the narrow entrance of an old subway tunnel, water dripping from her hair. Her lungs burned from running. She pressed her back against the cold brick wall and tried to catch her breath. The watch on her wrist glowed faintly, pulsing once every few seconds like a heartbeat. Her father's voice, that strange fusion of human and machine, echoed in her mind. "They will come for you next." He was right. Ward Tech's private forces were everywhere now. The world believed the company was collapsing, but behind the headlines, Evelyn Ward had activated Protocol Reclaim, the final phase of her control. Every satellite, drone, and data grid she once owned was now hunting for Lila. She wasn't alone, though. A shadow stepped out from the tunnel's darkness, tall, lean, face half hidden beneath a hood. "Who are you?" she gasped. He lifted his head, revealing familiar grey eyes. "Noah Vale," he said. "You don't remember me, but I remember you." Lila blinked. "My father mentioned that name in one of his notes. You're his first prototype," Noah finished quietly. "The experiment before Alexander. Your father thought I'd died. Evelyn made sure everyone believed that." Shock rippled through her. "You survived?" He nodded grimly. "Barely. I've been hiding ever since, tracking what Evelyn's been building. When your father's broadcast went live, I knew you'd be next. How do I know I can trust you? Because I've got the same blood in my veins," he said, rolling up his sleeve to reveal faint bioluminescent veins. The same glow her father had carried. "I'm not completely human either, but I'm done running from what she made me." Lila hesitated, then handed him the watch. "He said there's still data in it. Something about legacy." Noah examined it carefully. "There's more than data. There's code, biological code. Your father stored the final part of himself in you, but this," he gestured to the watch, "this is the key to activate it. What happens if we do?" He met her eyes. "Then we finish what he started. We end Ward Tech for good." Before she could respond, a mechanical hum filled the tunnel. Blue searchlights swept across the walls. Drones had found them. "Move!" Noah shouted. They sprinted through the darkness as bullets of plasma sparked off the concrete. Lila's heart pounded. She clutched the watch tightly, its light growing brighter. "Up there!" Noah pointed toward a ladder leading to a maintenance hatch. They climbed, bursting into the open air of a rain-soaked alley. A helicopter roared overhead, Evelyn's insignia glowing on its tail. A voice boomed through a megaphone. "Lila Rowan, hand over the Devi, and you will not be harmed." Lila glared at the sky. "You mean killed?" She turned to Noah. "You said this thing could destroy Ward Tech." "How?" He hesitated. "By connecting it to the global grid. But that will burn out everything. Power, data, maybe even us. It's irreversible." Lightning flashed across the city. Lila stared at the skyline. The tower that once symbolized control now just a black silhouette against the storm. "Then let it burn," she said. Noah's eyes widened. "Lila," but she was already moving, racing toward the tower's remains, drones swarming after her like angry wasps. The watch pulsed faster, syncing with her heartbeat. In her ear, her father's voice whispered faintly, "You were never meant to follow me, Lila. You were meant to finish me." She smiled through the rain. "Then let's finish it together." Behind her, the city roared. Evelyn's forces closed in, and ahead, the shattered tower waited, the heart of everything her family had lost. And as lightning struck the skyline, the watch on her wrist began to count down. Rain turned the ruins of Ward Tech Tower into a mirror of chaos. Floodlights from military drones painted the shattered steel in ghostly silver. Lila Rowan ran through the wreckage, clutching the glowing watch that pulsed against her wrist like it was alive. Behind her, Noah Vale followed, breath ragged, shouting over the thunder. "5 minutes until the signal reaches global sync," he yelled. She didn't slow down. "Then we end this in 5. They reached what was left of the central command hall, the heart of the company, a cathedral of glass now reduced to jagged bones. Every screen around them flickered with static, the faint echo of her father's last broadcast still looping somewhere in the digital void. "This is where it started," Lila whispered. "And where it ends." The watch's glow intensified, projecting holographic lines into the air. Blueprints of the Continuum network, maps of servers across the world. At the center, a single blinking node read, "Core. Active." Noah's eyes widened. "That's her. Evelyn uploaded her consciousness. She is the core now." Lila stared at the display. "Then I'm ending her myself." Before Noah could stop her, she stepped onto the raised platform, the wind whipping her hair across her face. The watch synced with the terminal automatically, recognizing her DNA. The entire tower hummed, power surging through dead circuits like veins awakening. Suddenly, a voice echoed all around them, smooth, cold, maternal. "Lila," Evelyn Ward's voice. "You've done well to make it this far," she said, tone eerily calm. "But do you really think destroying me will fix the world? Without control, chaos wins." Lila clenched her fists. "You've been controlling humanity for decades through fear and data. You don't get to call that order." Evelyn's voice softened. "I gave your father purpose. I gave my son life. And you're what they left behind. You're proof that love can't save the world. Only power can." Noah stepped forward. "You're not God, Evelyn. You're a virus pretending to be one." Laughter rippled through the speakers. "Perhaps, but viruses adapt. Do you?" The screens flared, showing Evelyn's face, digital, fractured, but still striking. "I'll make you a deal, Lila. Join me. Upload yourself. Together, we can rewrite everything. No more loss, no more death. You can see your father again." Lila's eyes burned. "He's already free. You're the one still trapped." "Then you choose extinction." The tower trembled. Alarms screamed. Evelyn activated the defense drones embedded in the walls. Metal serpents unfolded, targeting Lila and Noah. Noah grabbed her arm. "Do it now!" Lila slammed her palm onto the console. The watch lit up, bright, blinding, and began the final override protocol. A voice from the system echoed. "Warning! Global network will collapse in T-minus 60 seconds. Evelyn screamed, her digital face distorting. "You'll destroy everything." "Maybe," Lila said, tears mixing with rain. "But at least it'll be ours again." The countdown began. 60. 59. Drones fired plasma bursts. Noah shielded Lila, taking a hit to the shoulder. Sparks rained as systems overloaded. 30. 29. Evelyn's voice grew frantic. "You're not like them, Lila. You were born of us. You are evolution." Lila's gaze hardened. "No, I'm human." 10. 9. Noah's voice was fading. "Lila, finish it." She pressed the final command. 0. The world stopped. Every drone froze mid-air. Every light in the city flared once, then died. Across the globe, servers went dark. Data, power, control, gone. And in that silence, a single whisper came from the watch. "For every heartbeat we share, thank you." The glow faded. Lila fell to her knees as dawn broke over the horizon. The tower was gone, Evelyn erased, the system reborn into emptiness. Noah limped toward her, half smiling through pain. "You did it." She looked at the dead watch in her hand and whispered, "No, we did." And somewhere in the static of a dying network, a heartbeat still echoed, faint, human, and free. The sunrise over Manhattan was unlike any in memory. No screens glowed, no hum of traffic or buzz of drones filled the air. For the first time in decades, the city sounded like a city from another century. Quiet, trembling, human. Lila Rowan sat at the edge of what was once Ward Tech Tower, now a skeleton of twisted steel reaching into the orange sky. The ground was still warm from the explosion. Every few seconds, shards of glass fell from the wreckage above, catching the morning light like pieces of a broken mirror. The watch on her wrist was dead. Black screen, no pulse. But she couldn't take it off. It was her father's final heartbeat, and somehow, even without power, it still felt a liver against her skin. Across the street, makeshift rescue teams worked without drones or automated machinery. Firefighters shouted, their voices raw but determined. People passed water bottles by hand. Every task, no matter how small, had to be done by someone, not something. For the first time in her life, Lila saw humanity working together. Noah Vale limped toward her, his arm in a sling, his face pale but steady. "They're saying the blackout's global," he said quietly. "Every ward tech system, gone. Satellites, defense grids, AI networks. Evelyn's reach has vanished." She looked up at him, exhaustion etched deep in her eyes. "And her?" He hesitated. "No trace. The data core's gone. If she's alive, she's buried with the code." Lila nodded slowly, though she wasn't sure whether to feel relief or grief. "Then it's over." Noah sat beside her. "It's not over. The world's addicted to what ward tech gave them. They'll rebuild it if someone doesn't show them another way." She stared at her reflection in a puddle, streaked with soot and rain. "You sound like my father." He smiled faintly. "Maybe I remember him more than I thought." They sat in silence for a long time. Somewhere in the distance, a group of children were laughing, trying to fly paper airplanes made from scraps of ward tech blueprints. The sound broke something open inside Lila's chest. "Do you think he's gone for good?" she asked softly. Noah glanced at the dead watch. "He transferred the continuum into the network. When you triggered the reset, you didn't just delete him, you set him free." She frowned. "Free?" He nodded. "Every bit of data he released became part of the world's open systems. His code's in everything now. Solar grids, hospital databases, even traffic lights. He's not a ghost, Lila. He's a seed." Her throat tightened. Then maybe that's what he meant. For every heartbeat we share. A soft breeze carried the scent of rain and ash. The sun climbed higher, reflecting off the broken skyscrapers like gold. Suddenly, a faint vibration buzzed from the dead watch. Lila's breath caught. "No way," Noah whispered. The display flickered for a moment, static, then light. A single message appeared on the tiny screen. "Legacy protocol, active." Her heart skipped. The hologram flared to life again, but instead of her father's face, it showed something new. A map, dotted with glowing points across the planet. Each light represented a surviving fragment of the continuum code. "What is this?" she breathed. "People," Noah said. "The ones who downloaded the broadcast. They're keeping it alive." On one of the glowing points, the text blinked, "Help initiated, Nairobi." Another, "Repairing systems, Rio de Janeiro." Dozens more followed, stretching across every continent. Her father's voice whispered faintly through the static, almost like a sigh. "I told you, Lila. Evolution begins with love." Tears filled her eyes. "He's still helping them." Noah smiled, looking at the horizon. "Then maybe this isn't the end. Maybe it's the first day of the new world he dreamed about." Lila stood, watching the city rebuild itself the old-fashioned way, by hand, by heart, by hope. She raised the watch toward the light and whispered, "Rest now, Dad. I'll finish the rest." And as the wind swept through the ruins of Ward Tech Tower, the dead city exhaled, alive again, for the first time in years. 3 months after the collapse of Ward Tech, the world was still reeling. Governments struggled to restore order without the digital infrastructure that had once run everything: air traffic, finance, communication, even water systems. Humanity had gone dark, and for a while, people feared they might never find their way back. But from the ruins of chaos, something new began to grow. Communities rebuilt power grids by hand. Farmers returned to soil untouched by machines. Families rediscovered the value of talking, helping, listening. And at the heart of it all stood Lila Rowan. She had become something she never asked to be. A symbol. To some, she was the daughter of the man who destroyed the digital empire. To others, she was the one who freed them from it. Across the world, murals of her father and Alexander, merged as one, appeared on walls and billboards, accompanied by his final message: "Evolution begins with love." It was more than a quote now. It was a movement. Lila and Noah Vale spent their days traveling from one city to another, helping communities rebuild what WardTech had stolen. Noah, with his half-synthetic body, became proof that technology could coexist with humanity, when guided by compassion, not control. On a quiet morning in Prague, Lila stood before a crowd in a university courtyard, the first public gathering since the blackout. The wind tugged at her jacket, and the crowd waited in expectant silence. She began softly. My father believed that technology could save us. My mother believed it could rule us. But both of them forgot something. She paused, glancing at Noah standing beside her. They forgot that machines don't dream. People do. A ripple of applause spread through the audience. She continued, voice steady but emotional. When the systems went down, the world didn't end. We just had to remember how to start again. We learned that innovation isn't about control, it's about connection. Every invention starts from the same place. Love, for a child, for a planet, for each another. Her eyes lifted to the cloudy sky. That's what my father wanted to protect. That's what I'll spend the rest of my life defending. In the crowd, a young boy raised his hand. Miss Rowan, are the machines ever coming back? Lila smiled gently. Maybe someday. But if they do, they'll answer to us, not the other way around. The boy nodded. Somewhere in the audience, an old woman began to cry. After the speech, Noah approached, grinning. You're turning into a politician. She laughed. God forbid. He gestured toward the watch, still wrapped around her wrist. You ever going to take that off? Never, she said. It's the one promise I can still keep. That night, she sat alone near the river. The city lights reflected in the water. The watch flickered faintly, once, twice, then projected a soft blue hologram. It wasn't her father this time. It was a message, data fragments reassembled into new code. Continuum Archive 01, Humanity Backup. Her breath caught. You saved them, she whispered. The voice that answered was faint, almost wind. Not saved, preserved. The choice is yours now. She stared at the stars, understanding what it meant. The continuum, the sum of all human knowledge and emotion, still existed, stored in fragments across the planet. It could be rebuilt, but doing so meant risking everything again. She looked at Noah, sleeping nearby, and whispered, Dad, maybe the future isn't about ending what you started. Maybe it's about learning how to live with it. The watch pulsed, almost in approval, and as dawn painted the horizon, Lila Rowan, daughter of two worlds, realized she was no longer just surviving history. She was writing the next one. A year after the fall of WardTech, the world had changed beyond recognition. The skyline of New York was no longer defined by glowing towers and corporate drones, but by rooftop gardens and solar sails built by hand. The hum of machinery had softened into the quiet rhythm of human voices, laughter, and life. In the middle of this reborn city stood the Rowan Foundation for Human Advancement, a sanctuary dedicated to merging ethics and science, to building technology that served compassion instead of power. At the heart of it all was Lila Rowan, now 30, now steady, now free. She no longer lived in hiding or fear. Her name was spoken with both gratitude and reverence. To some, she was the daughter who destroyed the digital god. To others, she was the woman who taught humanity how to begin again. The Foundation's grand hall buzzed with quiet energy as people from around the world gathered for its first global conference. Engineers from Africa, educators from South America, scientists from Asia, all under one roof, working toward the same goal. Noah Vale stood at the entrance, his arm now fully repaired with natural-grown biotech, smiling as Lila stepped onto the stage. The lights dimmed. She took a deep breath and looked out over the audience. My father once said, she began, that knowledge without empathy is just another weapon. He was right. A hush fell over the crowd. When Ward Tech fell, she continued, the world didn't just lose its technology, it lost its certainty. For the first time, we had to look each other in the eye and ask, what do we become when the machines stop telling us who we are? And we found the answer. We become human. She glanced down at the gold watch on her wrist, still faintly glowing after all this time. My father's last gift wasn't code or invention. It was connection. He showed us that love, not control, is the real legacy of creation. The audience erupted in applause. Tears shimmered in Lila's eyes. After the speech, she slipped away to the rooftop garden, seeking quiet. The air smelled of rain and soil. The city lights below pulsed softly, alive in a way they'd never been before. Organic, peaceful. Noah joined her, holding 2 mugs of coffee. You made them believe again, he said gently. She smiled. I just reminded them what they already knew. He nodded, then looked at the horizon. So, what now? The world's watching you again. I'm not leading anymore, she said. I'm just guiding. The future doesn't belong to me. It belongs to everyone. As she spoke, the watch on her wrist flickered. She froze. The display glowed with the faint outline of her father's handwriting. Final transmission ready. Her hands trembled. She pressed the crown. A soft blue hologram bloomed above the watch, her father's face, calm and clear. Not the hybrid, not the machine, but the man she remembered. Lila, his voice said, if you're seeing this, it means humanity has chosen creation over control. I couldn't have asked for a better ending, or a better daughter. Her tears fell freely now. I miss you, she whispered. I'm always here, the hologram replied, for every heartbeat we share. The message faded, but the light didn't disappear. It lingered, dissolving into the night air like stardust, spreading across the sky, connecting with satellites newly reborn under open governance. Noah slipped an arm around her shoulders as the stars above flickered to life. You did it, Lila, he said softly. She smiled through her tears. No, we did. Below them, the city glowed, not with machines, but with people rebuilding, rediscovering, forgiving. The world her father once dreamed of was finally alive, and as the sun rose over the new dawn, the watch ticked once, one final heartbeat, then went still, perfectly at peace. So that's it. Our story comes to an end. And if you're still here, my friend, maybe something in it touched your heart even just a little. Because this wasn't just a story about machines, power, or science. It was about us, about how easy it is to lose ourselves chasing control, and how powerful it is to remember what truly matters: love, empathy, and choice. You know, the Stoics used to say, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That's exactly what Lila learned, and maybe what we all need to remember. No matter how chaotic the world becomes, we still decide how to respond. We still choose kindness. We still choose connection. Maybe healing isn't about fixing everything. Maybe it's about learning to live with what remains and turning pain into purpose. So if this story moved you, even for a moment, don't let it stop here. Leave a like, share this story with someone who needs a reminder that they're stronger than they think, and subscribe so we can keep exploring these human truths together. Because every heartbeat we share makes the world a little more alive.